There we go. Ina, it's all
Okay.
yours.
Okay, thank you. Okay, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for tonight's town hall. The main focus of this meeting this evening is to share some information about what the temple is doing regarding security. There will also be an opportunity to talk about and process our feelings surrounding the horrifying incident that happened at Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville, Texas. But first, I want to take this opportunity to thank our clergy and staff, especially Rabbi Baisley and Heather Kibble, for always putting the safety of our congregants at the top of everything that we do. I have participated in a number of security trainings, and I'm proud to know that most of the things that are talked about as being the most important safety measures at synagogues are already in place at Anshe Emeth. Remember, vigilance is not the same as fear. And we hope that after listening to the safeguards that Rabbi Baisley and Heather speak about, we will continue Anshe Emeth's culture of togetherness and feel safe and secure when coming to services, classes, and events at the temple. And please know that as always, we strive to be a welcoming space to our increasingly diverse Jewish community and interfaith families, so that we may all feel and enjoy a sense of place and belonging. Now it's my pleasure to turn the screen over to Rabbi Baisley. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Ina. It is good to see so many of you on this call. I've been missing seeing all of your faces, even if they're in one by one squares. And I can't wait for the day where we're all able to come back together to kind of be with one another. Before we do some processing of what happened, and we've certainly talked about it from the pulpit a couple of times and online, I want to address, you know what, here's what we're going to do. I have a clip of the CNBC interview that I had done that talked about synagogue security, and I want to play it for everybody. There are a couple of things that I want to mention. On my way to the temple that day, our security consultant, Josh Gleiss, called me and said, they're going to interview you. They're going to have a lot of questions. Talk about, anti-Semitism, talk about what you hear other people are doing. If they ask you, what are you doing at the temple? Don't tell them anything. You can tell them we got a lot of things happening underneath the hood of the car, but don't tell them about anything. And then he listed all the things that we can't tell people about. Why? Because it's going on to national TV, and broadcasting what we're doing would kind of undo some of the things that we're doing. And they did ask a lot of questions about that. He said, don't let them get videos of this or that or the other thing. Now I'm saying this or that or the other thing and staying mute on what it is, because we typically record these town hall events and put them on YouTube. So following that, we don't want people on the internet knowing exactly what we're doing, other than to suffice it to say that what we're doing is a great deal to keep everybody safe and also not sacrifice our values at the same time. I will say, when you watch the interview, one of the things that made me chuckle while watching it was the fact that they choose very carefully where they're going to cut the video. So, for example, the first thing you're going to hear me saying is the line, I've talked to many of my colleagues out there, and they're, post Colleyville, they're really rethinking what they're doing from the bottom up. Period. What I really said, the question was, are you guys doing anything differently? And I said, well, the truth is, we've been thinking about this for a very long time. I've heard from many of my colleagues that they're rethinking security from the ground up. But thankfully, here at Anshe Emeth, we are really not changing anything, because we have everything in place that we need to have in place. And we've been thinking about, how do we make ourselves secure while not sacrificing our values, which is what they're asking about. All of that was cut out, and you had just that middle blurb in the middle. So I'll talk more about that as we see some of these clips. but I want to talk to you mainly about our the value tension that we have between wanting to be opening, inclusive, and welcoming, but also secure at the same time. And the clip is a good way of getting to that point. So I'm going to share it with you right now.
Jewish leaders across the nation are on high alert.
I've spoken to many of my colleagues. They're all going to the drawing board, some in many places, thinking about what to do in light of Colleyville, Texas.
The attack in Texas prompting Rabbi Philip Baisley in New Jersey and other Jewish leaders to figure out how to ramp up security while also keeping their doors open.
Wrestling with this tension of how do we stay safe and secure, but also how do we not give up some of the values that we hold dear that make Anshe Emeth a community that is loving, that's supportive, that's opening, that's welcoming.
Panic buttons, automatic lockdown systems, bomb-sniffing technology are just a few of the updates temples are making. Not always visible to the eye, but deeply effective in thwarting an attack.
Nobody wants to go to a synagogue or another temple that feels like a prison. The key is to try and use technologies that still allow for a warm, inviting community, and at the same time have more than meets the eye.
Dr. Joshua Gleiss, a trained intelligence and counterterrorism analyst, has been advising religious leaders on how to be better prepared.
It's not necessary to live in fear in this country. It is necessary to be prepared for different eventualities.
As temples review all options, the Anti-Defamation League and other Jewish advocacy groups are pushing Washington to increase federal funding for grants used to pay for security.
The issue is not finding ways to enhance security. The issue is finding money, resources.
A call for more funding. Data from the FBI revealing over half of religious-based hate crimes in 2020 targeted Jews. This as more bad actors move online.
Since COVID started, many Zoom bombing incidents happened in synagogues, and those Zoom bombing incidents often result in Nazi imagery flashing across the screen.
For many Jewish Americans, security at temple is normal, but many institutions are now offering training alongside law enforcement to better recognize suspicious behavior, strategies to protect themselves from violence. Experts say contact your local synagogue or county official for more information.
15 minutes of interviews for about 20 seconds. One of the things that I really was trying to impress, so she was asking, did you ever get Zoom bombed? No. Did you ever have? And as we're going down the nose, she got less and less interested. One of the things that I wanted to impress upon her is that this is not something new for synagogues that are in city environments. And we are, even though many of us live in the suburbs, we are a city or an urban synagogue. And we take that security quite seriously. But we also aren't willing to completely shut ourselves off from the world. And there's a way of doing it where we're able to protect ourselves, but also be outgoing to the community at the same time. That one doesn't negate the other. And so often in this world, do we find ourselves presented with this phony two-choice binary option? You're either secure or you're not. When in reality, as Dr. Gleiss put it, he is our security consultant, by the way, there are ways of being able to have an in-between, right? Very often in life, do things rarely come down to a black and white option. And there are ways of protecting and securing ourselves that are able to lend ourselves to also being a place that is welcoming and inclusive. I'm going to ask Heather in a moment to share some of the things that she can share with all of you. But keep in mind that we aren't opening up the hood and letting everybody see inside. But there are a lot of things that we've done in recent years. And thankfully, we've received multiple national security grants to be able to implement a lot of these changes in a very powerful way. And hopefully not a very noticeable way for all of you at the same time. Heather?
So hello to everybody, if I didn't see you earlier as we were joining. Rabbi Baisley did say a little bit of what I was going to say because as he mentioned, I'm limited in what I'm going to share right now. But yes, over the past years, basically, I've been with the synagogue 13 years. And when I joined as the executive director, we actually had already received our first Homeland Security grant, and since then have gotten 2 more. Before applying for each of the grants that I've been involved in applying for, and we have applied for more than 2, we've been lucky in that we got the 2 that we got. But before applying, as part of the process, we have a security consultant. Either Josh has come in, and also I've had law enforcement come in and help us do a security assessment. They do a walkthrough of the facility, and they point out and do a full write-up for us of places that that show basically the gaps in our security. And then following that, what are their recommendations for things that we should do, for technology that we should install or hardware to help close those gaps? They call this target hardening. So we have made many upgrades in the past, 5-6 years to our security. Some of the obvious ones that I can share with you, because anybody can see them who drives past the temple. You all noticed a number of years ago how much brighter it got in our parking lot and on our sidewalks. That was an upgrade to our exterior lighting, thanks to a Homeland Security grant. If you come by the temple on Livingston Avenue, you'll see very nice planters out front. That's not for beautification. That's there on purpose, similar to bollards, but instead of bollards, we put planters. Those were through funding from the grants. So those are the obvious ones that I'm going to share with you. Others, I'm not. If any of you would like more information, I'm happy to tell you one-on-one. We're just not putting it out there, broadcasting it beyond that. In addition to that, the grant funding has also been used for training over the past years. We had training with Josh Gleiss a number of years ago, and we are working with him to coordinate a date for another training that we will hold over Zoom, and we will make available to anybody who is interested. And we've also had training through other agencies over the past years. And we also have a very good relationship with our local law enforcement, with New Brunswick Police Department and the Department of Homeland Security. Amy Keller at the Jewish Federation is our security consultant through the Federation. And she is also very on top of and aware of all of these, different opportunities for trainings and connections within law enforcement, things that we should be doing. So she's another good resource. And I was about to mention one more thing. Oh, and our security guards. You all have seen, if you come to Temple on Friday nights, that we do have an armed guard stationed at the back door, which is why we tell everybody to come in the back door, and the back door is the door that is open. The front door is locked. All of the front doors are locked. So anytime you come into Temple on a Friday night, or if you come on a Saturday morning or on a Sunday morning, you will see the guard standing there. Anytime we expect the doors to be unlocked, or we want them to be unlocked for any amount of time, we will have the guard on the premises. I hope I didn't give too much away.
Thank you, Heather. One of the things that I was caught thinking about while watching the thing air live was the fact that there was this segment on anti-Semitism and how synagogues are responding on International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And we all, for the most part, living here in America or in New Jersey, can sometimes forget about anti-Semitism in the world. Then every couple of years, whether it's Poway or Pittsburgh or whatever it might be, are kind of shocked back to acknowledging that we live in a world filled with anti-Semitism. And that can be kind of a shock. And it can also make us want to retreat a little bit more and to not be doing the things that we're doing, so that we don't have the same sort of spotlight on ourselves. I think we need to resist those urges as much as possible, to still do all the wonderful things that makes our community by coming together, by celebrating together, by rejoicing together, by doing acts of tikkun olam with one another, and through the project that Jay Goldberg and Joe Cohen are doing, along with a lot of other volunteers. We're feeding with over 45,000 lunches to Elijah's Promise, where we've got the Community Development Corporation and all the diapers that we're giving out, close to 400,000 a year. These things are making us known in the community, and I can see how someone might say, because of anti-Semitism and threats, we should pull back. We shouldn't be as obvious. But in truth, these are the things I think that make us secure. One of the things that I said to Seema, who was interviewing me, she said, well, she asked me at one point, what are the things that can really make your synagogue secure more than anything else? I said, the truth is that anti-Semitism, xenophobia, Islamophobia, racism, all these things make society insecure. And that if we want a community and a world to live in that doesn't have to worry about anti-Semitism, we not only need to fight hatred and rampant hatred of Jews, but also rampant hatred of all people. We are safe as Jews when everybody is safe. The only type of world that's truly safe for Jews is an equitable world for everybody. So we must continue to work for that dream, that longing, if we're really going to keep ourselves safe for the long term. And that's what I urge all of us to remember as we go forward in light of whatever might happen in the world. And yes, we are bombarded right now with emails from Federation and from everywhere about security trainings, and attend it, but don't let it make you go crazy at the same time too. And we're going to reach out when we've got something scheduled with our consultant. And if you only want to attend one security training, attend ours with our own security consultant, because he's got a great way about him about making you feel secure and not scared at the same time. I see Deborah's got her hand. Oh, is your hand down now? Okay, I'm assuming I answered your question, then you're nodding, but I didn't even know you had. Are there any questions about security before we move on? I follow the 10-second, there we go. You see, the 10-second rule always works. If nobody raises their hand within 10 seconds, you know to move on. But Jack, you got me right at 9.5 seconds.
I just made it. I'm just curious. I had no idea the Department of Homeland Security gave grants to synagogues and I assume other religious organizations, but I guess they do. Is this a big amount of money that they supply?
Yes, but not enough. It is very competitive to apply for the grants. We've been very lucky. The first one that we got was $75,000, and then the second one was $100,000. We're actually implementing that one now, just finishing up the last of spending down that funding. And then I'll be submitting another application when the application process opens up, which usually is in April. And the most recent round from last year, they were awarding $150,000. So the funding has been increasing, which means that they can increase the amount that the institution can get. And now, of course, there's many more places that are applying.
Do you feel it's done pretty fairly, or is there a lot of political, like the congressman from this?
No, there's no politics at all involved in this. There's a rigorous application with assessments that you submit and information that you share about the facility, the history, the people we serve, and it goes through the state of New Jersey first. They grade and score each piece of the application, then it goes to the federal because it's a federal grant. So it goes from New Jersey, and then whoever they select goes to federal, and then they score it, and then they award the funding.
That's great. Thank you.
It's amazing how quickly 100,000 can just disappear too.
Yeah, and I just like to add in there that Josh Gless has been the one who's been advising us on the best ways to use those funds Heather, you may want to speak a
Yeah.
little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah, before we used him to implement the first grant, I learned from that one how difficult it was to choose the right vendors and make the right decisions about what exactly to do. And so we were lucky that we formed the relationship with him in the process of having gotten the second grant. And he's been incredibly helpful in advising and guiding us to get the most out of the money that we have and use the right vendors. So, yeah. Okay. Andrew has his hand raised.
Yes, hello?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. With regard to the training that keeps being mentioned, that's available to congregants, can you please just comment on, if you can now, if not offline, then what kind of, what is the training oriented toward, and who would it be appropriate for?
Rabbi,
You know what I
want me to
mean?
take-
I mean,
Yeah,
would
yeah,
you
yeah,
send
yeah.
all,
Do-
would you
Yes.
send all congregants or no
Yes.
congregants?
Yes, no, it would be, there can be different trainings. The last time we had Josh run a training, we ran two. One was for staff and one was for congregants, but they actually were the same, basically the same material. We just broke it into two sessions. We will consult with him on what he feels are the most important things that everybody who is in the building should know in case of an emergency situation, an attack of some sort, and let him, as the expert, share what the training and the information on how to react and things that we can do, both to prevent and to mitigate if an attack actually happens. Rabbi, do you have anything to add to
I'll
that?
leave it with that. I won't get into specifics. You'll get it during the call. David.
Thank you. Consultants are nice. They recommend things. In the security issue that we're talking about, I'm going to characterize has a lot of similarities to aircraft failures. The National, Transportation Safety Board, when there's a crash, they figure out exactly what the root cause was, back it up to I'm going to call it the fatal issue, and to be able to improve every airplane flight that occurs after that. Do our consultants have a similar approach to circumstances that may occur, Colleyville, et cetera, such that they can recommend either changes to technology or additional technologies or things that will mitigate a weakness that might not have been realized until the day after Colleyville occurred?
Yeah, actually, that's one of the reasons why we really like Josh a lot. He is not just somebody who knows a lot about security and knows what vendors to go to. But he also, he also has a lot of academic background on it and does a lot of debriefs. I would say a lot of the times when there's an attack or something like this, it wouldn't be too far-fetched for us to hear from him very shortly thereafter about something we're doing or something we ought to change, or don't worry, I saw what happened. I've gone and I've explored it and I've investigated. You guys are good. Just keep doing the policies that we've set in place. So he is not just a consultant for getting vendors and equipment, but he's also somebody who has planned, articulated, and designed for us security plans, security backups, and has done a lot of debriefing what has happened after tragedy as well, and is updated from that. So he is an all-in-one package that we really just love the guy, and he is phenomenal and very thorough.
And if you want to learn more about him, his last name is spelled Gleis. I'll put it into the chat. You can Google him, Josh Gleis, and he has
was
a
the one in the
website.
interview.
Yeah, he was
Yep.
the one in the interview. He has a website. You can read his bio. He is, in my opinion, he's brilliant and very well trained, comes with lots of experience, and And anytime I have a question about anything, he responds, he gives me answers, he gives me guidance. So yeah, does that answer your question, David? Okay.
The Rosenbaums.
Has there been any incidents or any attempts at difficult situations, in terms of the temple?
No. No, we haven't seen any heightened anti-Semitism in our area. We haven't gotten any alerts from the police. We have a really good relationship with the New Brunswick Police Department and the nearby townships as well. There is nothing of concern that has come up or has changed in our general vicinity. So we're going to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, I didn't mention this before, but I was explaining to somebody else recently. I see this as like CPR training.
Mhm.
It's something that it's good for us all people to be trained in. You hope to never need to use it, but you want to know that you have the training. And Andrew, to answer your question from the chat, which he asked if one spends little or no time in the temple, then the training is not of value. I actually have learned a lot from these trainings over the years that I use throughout my life. Not just if I'm in our temple in New Brunswick, but what if you go to a bar bat mitzvah and you're in another synagogue? What if you go to the supermarket and something happens there, or a mall? The training that you get from things like this train you in what to do in these situations, no matter where they happen. And again, we hope that we will never be in the place where that happens, but I'm sure that the people in Colleyville hoped that they would never be in that situation either, but they had been trained. And so that made them better prepared to deal with the situation. Any other questions? We'll give you more than 10 seconds this time, just in case. Nope. All right, well, regarding this, even if we move on to other things, if a question pops up later, let us know, put it in the chat, or raise your hand again, or certainly we are available in the temple. You all know how to reach us, I hope. So.
I hope everyone is staying healthy out there. I know the Omicron wave has been something of fear for many. We are taking it very seriously here at the temple. This is my moving on to another subject right now. I am excited that we are kind of returning a little bit more to normal after Omicron seems to be dying down somewhat. We did push our cabaret night until the 26th of February. That way we'd give some more time for the virus to die down a little bit. It's not going to be the same venue that people love in Reitman Hall. We're going to be in the sanctuary. That way we can have live control our cameras, zoom in, zoom out, that we have good sound system so that we can stream it online for people who still don't feel comfortable coming into the temple, while also having people participating here in the sanctuary and having people watch as well in the sanctuary. Also doing it up on the bima removes people further away from others so that they can be unmasked and sing and keep everybody safe at the same time. While I would love for us to be in Reitman Hall with drinks and food and those wonderful meatballs that somebody makes every year that I just adore, hopefully next year we'll be able to get back to that. And I have good optimism for that. I also had good optimism for doing it this year, but I have good optimism for us doing it next year as well. We have some wonderful events coming up in March as well, including a mixology tasting that's going to correspond to a Perm Spiel screening, and our Perm Spiel will be screened again online like it was last year, just because of the proximity of everybody who's performing in it. But we are seeing more of a return to normal, and I want to encourage all of you to participate in as much as you can, whether in person or at home. There was an article in the Times, an op-ed in the Times not too long ago, I think a day or two ago, about churches should go back to being in person and drop the online option. And it was from somebody who wrote an op-ed about a year and a half ago about how churches need to drop in-person services and go online. And essentially she wrote, it's time to reverse that because we need community and we need to be with one another. And I have heard from many of you that being at home for services is lovely and wonderful. It's become a weekly tradition that you really look forward to. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like praying at the same time, and it feels like a participation. We're doing the best we can with our sound system, with our audio video to kind of make it as immersive as possible. But just because you're watching it on a screen at home doesn't mean that you can't sing aloud at home, sing along at home. Sometimes it's a lot easier to sing aloud at home when you're not around others. That's in my case. Or to say a name for Kaddish as well and to stand at home. This is about bringing this prayer space into your home. And I'm of the belief that we need to make sure that everybody has access to the temple wherever you are in this world and whatever your comfort level is. So we aren't going to be dropping any of our virtual stuff anytime soon. But know that if you do choose to come in, we're working as hard as we can to make it as safe as possible for you at the same time. We're very serious about our mask mandate, and for things like the tastings that might be in person, or God willing, real soon, a congregational dinner, there are going to be things that are going to require a vaccine card in order to get admissions to, things that require you taking off your mask to eat food or whatnot. Or if we're looking at a service that might have 150 people in attendance, that might be a good time to have a vaccine card. So there are things that we're looking at to keep one another safe. So I want you to know that if you come in for something, we're doing everything we can within some margin of error to keep you as safe from the virus as possible, and that you should feel secure coming in. But at the same time, I don't want to pressure you into doing something that you aren't feeling comfortable with. Martin, I saw you raised your hand a second ago.
Actually, Rabbi, you answered the question with your follow-up comments.
Look at that, 2 for 2 with that tonight. Look at that. Do I have any questions about anything dealing with the vaccine or upcoming programming? I'll add in, are there any additional questions that you might have about what's going on at the temple that I can help you with? Helene.
Yeah, hi. Good to see everybody. Just real quick, if you could elaborate on some of the in-person events we hope to be looking forward to regarding vaccinations. Are you considering the vaccines plus booster being fully vaccinated?
Our board is currently in the process of debating all of that right now, so I don't have a full answer for you, although we do know that there are a couple of things coming up that we did decide based on the recommendations of the COVID task force to have a vaccine requirement for, such as the tastings. That's something that we had talked about, doing anyway. In terms of a formal mandate, I'll have a better answer for you, hopefully after the next board meeting.
Thank you.
Jack.
Yeah, but
Yep.
as of right now, we're following CDC guidelines on fully vaccinated, the CDC definition of fully vaccinated. So for example, for cabaret night, we are asking anybody who comes in person to be prepared to show proof of vaccine, and that's just fully vaccinated per the CDC guidelines. But again, we're going to be revisiting that for things that involve food and continuing to discuss it.
And you should know that there is a vaccine mandate for our staff as well. That's already in place and official. Jack. You're muted.
Sorry, I always do that. Anyway, I'm wondering if it might be possible and if it would be worthwhile for our consultant maybe to spend a few hours one day at the synagogue training those who want to be trained as to what to do in a dangerous situation. I think it might be a good idea, but it might also be very impractical. So I'm just asking.
I think right now we're looking at just having the training, and we'll have as much time for people to ask questions as possible. In terms of having him come for a couple hours, I would want to hold off on that until people feel more comfortable coming into the building. Otherwise, he's going to be sitting in an empty building with us. So
I got it.
But just to reiterate, we are working with Josh, with our consultant. He will provide the training. It will just be over Zoom. But I don't know if you understood that earlier. It will be a training led by Josh for.
Oh, no, I didn't get that.
Yeah,
So there'll
yeah.
be a Zoom session with him that's
There will,
scheduled?
yes, we are
Oh,
working
okay.
on, we have been in touch and are going back and forth on securing a date when Josh will run a training that will be open to anybody from the congregation who wants to attend.
Okay, well, that's perfect. He doesn't
Okay.
have to be there in person.
And so that, yeah, so that we can do it sooner rather than later, we're going to do it over Zoom. And then we'll talk about, having them more regularly or having one in person, at some point next year when COVID hopefully will be in the past.
Got it. Thanks.
other questions?
I don't see any hand. Oh, Claire.
Yes, Claire.
What about the students that you have during the week? How are they trained and how do they fit into this security?
Do you mean this, our
High
religious
school? Yeah.
The charter school.
The charter school. Because I was there one day when one was coming in the front door and I wasn't so thrilled with that. And I have seen them, although I haven't been in the temple often, I have seen students without masks. And I did see one temple senior that, well, we won't talk about that.
We do occasionally have people walk through. Most of the time they have their mask on when they come in. Sometimes if they're in the building a little bit longer, they forget, and we do remind them.
Aren't they there the whole day?
Yeah, I'm not talking about the charter school. I'm talking about the temple members. In terms of the charter school, they are supposed to be wearing their masks all the time, and that's up to their staff to reprimand them and to remind them if they're not. And if we see that they're not, then we will, approach their staff and talk to them about it. I had not seen that myself to any extent that, recently where I've needed to mention it to them, but I will be certain to have my eyes open as I'm around the building over the next week or so. And if I see, kids without masks on, then I will be sure to bring that up with their staff. But
There's so infrequently, it was amazing that I did see it. And I also saw a student being admitted through the front door.
Yeah, they're not supposed to use the front door. So that may have been a fluke. I'm not sure what that was, but for the most part, the students come in through the amphitheater entrance in the, early in the morning, and then, or through the back entrance, and then they exit through the amphitheater. They don't use, anytime any school-related personnel comes to, parents or anybody comes to the front door, we send them around to the back.
Have they been trained?
And they have a security guard that monitors their entrance and checks them in, and a security protocol as well. So they have a guard in the building the entire day who works very, very closely with us as well.
Yes.
Yes.
And there is a guard, a school security guard in the building, and he interacts regularly with our office staff. We're very familiar with him. He's a lovely gentleman, and he is working to keep everybody in the building safe, not just the school. So it's been a nice benefit to have him around.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm Chris. I was wondering, are you doing anything to give kids a drill or a lockdown drill?
So the charter school and the
Yes.
daycare run regular fire drills and lockdown drills. That is per the state of New Jersey. They have requirements. Our religious school kids are getting those types of trainings in their regular public schools. And we made the decision not to, we have such limited time with them that we feel that they already are trained from their, full-time school, that they would know what to do. So we train the staff, but we don't spend the time training the religious school kids.
Yes. Our religious school staff are very well trained on what to do in an emergency situation. The kids get enough trauma with lockdown locks drills at school. We don't need to traumatize them at the temple as well. Okay.
I think there were some other reminders you wanted to give everybody, right, Rabbi? Of upcoming events,
Grab my book.
your commercials.
While I'm grabbing my book of commercials, I do want to say that it is with profound sadness that we announce the passing of Milltown Mel. I know today on Groundhog's Day would have been a particularly highlight of his, but unfortunately it was not meant to be.
The one thing that may not be on your list, Helene, do you want to tell everybody about Ask Big Questions, which is happening this Saturday at 10:45, either in person or on Zoom?
Yes. So we're continuing with our essentially close to quarterly Ask Big Questions program. And we are thankful that we're able to present this both in person, according to our temple rules with regards to masking and social distancing. And we also have the Zoom option as well. The weekly email has the Zoom link from Monday. And the question is, who is in your family, if I remember correctly? So we have facilitators lined up. It's approximately 1 hour, starting at 10:45. So hopefully
it's a great chance to get to know some new people. Yes. Small groups come together just for a conversation. The question is really a jumping off point. And so if you're looking to meet some fellow temple members, get to know some new people, that join us for some conversation on Saturday morning.
Thank you.
The only thing that I want to say really quick while I have all of you on here, because I know many of you are keepers of Jewish excellence. This coming week is Rachel Raz. She produced the movie Space Torah, which is it's a short 25-minute movie about an astronaut, Jewish astronaut, who brought an actual Torah up to space and chanted Bereshit up there, and it's really a really remarkable story about a Jewish astronaut. She's coming to speak with us this Sunday. Anybody who comes will get a link for the conversation with the astronaut himself, which will happen in a couple of weeks. However, because of copyright issues, we can share the movie with all of you on Zoom Live, but we can't record it and then send out a link to all of our subscribers later on. So if you're a subscriber or sponsor to Keepers this week, make sure that usually if you're a sponsor, you get an email immediately thereafter saying here is the recording from the session, unless the speaker asks not to be recorded. In this case, there will definitely not be a recording sent out afterwards. So please make sure you set aside some time to attend. It'll probably be from 10:30 to 11:30 this Sunday morning. So that's just something to keep in mind because it's not our normal protocol. That is the last thing on my list. Yeah.
I think that you were asked to give a shout out about the CDC's.
Yes, the Dash for Diapers, of course. Let's see, is Laura Gordon on the call? I believe she had something she wanted to say for Dash for Diapers.
Or somebody else from the CDC.
Or somebody else from the CDC.
Wants to speak about it. And if not, then go to the CDC website and there's information about their virtual run, walk, do some kind of exercise and raise money for diapers. That's the best way that I can describe it.
Right.
It's either virtual or in person. They're raising as much money as they can. The CDC is, they're giving out about 400,000 diapers a year, which is no small feat whatsoever. The Dash for Diapers is their big drive of the year, one of the big drives for the year. And it's being, oh, I see Laura Leibowitz already
Leibowitz.
put the link into the chat. So you can go there to get the link for Dash for Diapers. Any little bit will help them tremendously. We're so proud of our CDC and what they do. And I hope you all participate in it. It does remarkable things for our community.
Great.
Heather, do you have anything else? I think I've ran out of things I can plug.
I think that was it. Anybody else here running anything for the temple that we forgot to talk about? Any other questions before we say goodbye? You know how to reach us.
I'm going to stop our recording right now. So if you have questions you want to ask that won't be recorded and shared with the community, you can. And I'll stay on for a little while afterwards if anybody has anything more private they want to talk about. But it was great to see all of you.